it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your Energy and Ascension forecast for Sunday, November 5th to Saturday, November 11th. So last week we closed out October, and of course we had a very festive, high potent energy day on October 31st, regardless of what you celebrate. Of course, it's all about honoring the ancestors, and that is definitely a high potency energy that I think we all kind of experienced as it ushered in November, and of course, All Saints Day. Definitely a high potency energy in order to really reminisce about how it is that we've gotten here, the energy of our ancestral lineage that has gotten us here, and of course, a true reflection within ourselves on where it is that we're closing doors and where it is that we're opening new ones up. Of course, we came into November. There's definitely some high and low points thus far, and we're only 3 days in, and mostly to do with the fact that Mr. Saturn, Mr. Karma himself, is preparing to go direct. So as I'm speaking to you here Friday evening, if you're live in the chat, first of all, I want to thank you for being here, but we haven't even had Saturn actually go direct yet. That's going to take place here tomorrow on Saturday the 4th, but we're feeling the buildup. We're feeling the energy. We're feeling like a major change is just around the corner, and we know that something's coming at us. We just don't know what that is. That is going to be a major shift in the energy of the collective and in the forward movement of us really kind of starting to see the pieces snap together on these new soul contracts, on this new timeline that we are about to jump into as soon as we can close the door on this eclipse energy. So this week we have, of course, Saturn popping off. We're going to need a couple of days in order for us to adjust to this energy. But not only 24 hours after Saturn goes direct on the 5th, we're actually going to have our last quarter moon taking place in Leo energy, the heart and soul of the zodiac. This is definitely a particular completion point, I would say, as we reflect back over this past month. We piece things together, we process what is working for us, what isn't working for us, and of course, we need to get heart aligned. We're building in this new identity. We're building in this new vibration and frequency. And of course, the Leo energy wants to bring it to life, wants to animate this ego avatar with this new creative force energy that we're still being downloaded with. Now, as we move through this week, we're going to see Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, finally wrap up her time in Virgo energy, which she's going to be very happy about, seeing as she doesn't really enjoy Virgo energy. I, for one, actually think that this has been a great couple of weeks with Venus in this Virgo energy because we were in a very overwhelming emotional time, like very choked up about things, very deep, very dark, very depressive in a lot of ways. And once we shift into this Virgo energy, of course, Virgo energy ruled over by Mercury, we were trying to get the heart and head in alignment, but we were easily able to use our intellect to do a deep dive, dissecting, analyzing what the changes are and what they need to be as far as our physical realm goes, what our heart is asking us to pursue. So the interesting part of this is that we have Venus I'm going to say, ending her time in Virgo energy on Tuesday, which just happens to be a full moon day, not a full moon, but meaning a full day of moon energies in Virgo energy. The moon will be in Virgo. Venus will be ending her time in Virgo energy, which screams to me some kind of emotional change and transformation, where the Virgo energy is kind of the fixer of the zodiac. We are looking to fix and heal and resolve and repair issues of the heart space that, of course, we've been struggling with since mid-August. So I find that to be a very interesting connection. But of course, she goes through this Virgo energy, she reaches that critical crisis degree, and then on the 8th, we have Venus stepping into her rulership in Libra energy. Now, I, for one, am going to be very, very, very interested to see how this particular transit kind of unfolds for a couple of reasons. I think first off, the first point that has me a little bit interested is that the Libra season that we just lived through, that we just experienced with that equinox energy, with that eclipse season opening up for us, was the darkest Libra season I think we've experienced in a very long time. To me, from my observation, we tapped more into the shadow parts of what that Libran energy was all about than we did the light part of Libran energy. It was not light, it was not fluffy, it was not about love, it was not about fairness or peace or harmony or justice at all. And as far as I'm concerned, the scales were tipped all the way into the dark force energy agenda and not so much balancing even slightly with the light energy. And again, from my perspective, that is why we failed to hit that highest timeline that was available to us. I'll rant a little bit more about that in just a second, but I just feel like this is going to be an interesting dynamic. And of course, for a couple of reasons, but one that is most interesting to me is the fact that Venus in Libran energy tends to want to stay in the shallow end. We're very surface level. We don't want to go too deep. We want everything to be light and fluffy. We want to be in love with love. We want to restore peace, harmony, and justice and fairness and, all of those beautiful things. We want to be in love with the small things in our day that brightens our day, that brings us happiness and joy. But the reason why I think this is going to be an interesting transit for us to observe is because we're in Scorpio season. You cannot do shallow and surface level in Scorpio energy. Scorpio energy is dark, it's deep, it's probing. It is the deepest, darkest parts of our soul space. In Libra season, we were like a full puzzle that had been completed that somebody just swiped off the table, smashed on the floor, and it fragmented into a bunch of pieces. Scorpio season is where we take all of those fragmented pieces of ourselves, of our lives, and we merge them back together in such a way that we end up taking on a brand new form. So I think it's going to be a very, very interesting dynamic to see how Venus in her rulership that wants to keep everything light and fluffy is actually going to keep her head above water, seeing as we're very much in Scorpio energy. We're still in eclipse energy that got initiated back in Libra season. And overall, I just think it's a completely polarized experience. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic to observe, not only on the global stage, but in our own individual lives as well. Now, on the 10th, we're going to have Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, and how it is that we express ourselves, move out of the Scorpio energy that Mercury has been in. And side note, very short transit in Scorpio energy. I tend to believe that that is divinely scripted for a couple of reasons. One of the most being, we can't handle any longer of doing a deep dive in our psyche, in our programming, in our conditioning. We can't continue this, I'm going to say, question period of who it is that we are, what it is that we want, where it is that we're going to go. We're tired of asking the questions. We need to now gain some clarity, gain some insight. So Mercury in Scorpio energy was gifting us the ability to use our intellect, our logic, our practicality coming from our mental plane with our intuitive emotion and insight coming from that Scorpio energy. And yes, many people want to talk about, Scorpio season about being secretive and creating secrets and conspiracies and all this kind of stuff. I tend to take a different approach to it. I think Scorpio energy isn't as much about secrets as it is about exposing the truth from those secrets. I think that the Scorpio energy isn't about creating conspiracies as much as it is unearthing the truth around conspiracies. I think that a lot of the time, there's a lot of misconceptions around what particular energies, what particular astrological transits are actually going to mean for us. But just put into perspective what Mercury in Sag is all about, which is standing in a new truth, having a new mission, having a new purpose, understanding the opportunities that are now available and possible for us because of the change and transformation that we've just gone through. Now, when there is an illumination of truth, we have to formulate what that actually means for us. Moving into Sag energy, first of all, we're going to be a lot more light and bright than we were being in the Scorpio energy. The Scorpio energy, typically speaking, is the darkness, while Sagittarius holds the light, holds the torch to guide us out of that dark tunnel. And so with Sag energy, we're more optimistic, We're more confident. We're having big, great, grand ideas. It's a visionary energy. We think that anything is possible. We can dream a big dream. We can lose ourselves in that mind space because we're coming out of the depths of our darkness. We are exploring this new identity, these new circumstances, this new path, this new direction. And in the Sag energy, because it is a mutable sign, mutable meaning as long as we are kind of given the proper evidence, information, and details for us to be in a situation or a position to change our mind, to change our path, we will do so very willingly. The Sag energy is down for adventure, down for a new quest. We're looking for new topics and themes to explore. We're looking to bust out of our comfort zone. We are looking to create a totally different space for us to actually explore, not only in our exterior realm, but we have a lot of explorations to kind of do in our inner realm as well. So Mercury moving into Sag energy, you're definitely going to feel that major shift take place, and it's going to put us in a very interesting position to kind of open up our mind, open up our heart space, open up, I'm going to say, the ability for us to actually move into an adjustment period and a time of experimentation. And of course, we're not going to have the new moon in Scorpio take place this week, but it is taking place on the 13th, which means that we are majorly building up to this event. And this event is going to be, I'm going to say, the most pivotal moon event that we have had all year. Reason being, and this is going to take me on a little bit of a tangent, so put your helmet on, buckle up. The reason being, and again, I have to kind of squash some of the misinformation out there. Even me, myself, on my feed, I see all these new age spiritualist, quote unquote, astrologers talking about, just as we came into November, oh, eclipse season is over. Oh, we're closing the door on eclipse season. Oh, this is great. I'm sorry, what? What kind of logic is that? First of all, we just had the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus energy on the 28th of October. Do the math. Between the 28th of October and the 1st of November is only a couple of days. And even removing the eclipse energy out of that particular event, we are still able to work with that particular moon energy cycle for days after the actual event. So just to kind of break it down, when we have a moon event, we are in that particular energy, using that energy, aligning with that energy, unpacking that energy until we have the next moon event. Meaning, as I'm coming to you here on November 3rd, we are still very much under the influence of the new moon solar eclipse in Libra that we had on October 14th. We will be in that energy until we have the next new moon cycle take over, which is the new moon in Scorpio energy. Just as the full moon lunar eclipse energy that we were working with in Taurus is still unwinding, still unpacking. And until we have the full moon in Gemini at the end of November, we aren't going to really see the door be fully closed on that particular energy, on that realization, on the unpacking of the life lessons that came with that particular moon event. And just a heads up, it takes relatively about 6 months in order to actually see the manifestation of whatever it is that needed to be manifested under the particular moon events that we just had, that we just unpacked. So yeah, okay, we're closing the door on eclipse season come the new moon in Scorpio, but it can take up to 6 months to see the actual seed, the fruit, the crop actually form from whatever intentions we set under those particular eclipse events. So I personally don't understand why everybody's talking about the fact that eclipse energy is over and that's behind us. No, it's not. When the new moon in Scorpio pops off on the 13th, yes, officially, we will close the door on the eclipse energy, on eclipse season. We will be returned back to normal new moon energy programming, but not a minute sooner. And that's why we're still in observation mode. That's why we're still confused as hell. That's why we're still awaiting to see what kind of timelines and soul contracts we're actually going to be working with, and we won't have that full realization until the new moon in Scorpio. Now, a new moon is always a time for new cycles, for new intentions, for new chapters to unfold. But the Scorpio energy, which is about change and transformation on a spiritual and soul level, is the first time that we will be testing out our butterfly wings that we've been working on since our caterpillar asses entered the cocoon back in July. So this, to me, screams that this is the marker of choice. This is the marker of change. This is the marker of transformation. And this is going to be the green light go ahead that we are going to have to actually move forward, which I know many of us are definitely anticipating. So yes, minor rant, minor tangent, may jump into it at a later time, not quite sure, but definitely needed to bring that awareness to the forefront, because I'm absolutely boggled reading some of these posts in the spiritual New Age community about how eclipse season was suddenly over November 1st. Definitely not. I think the most powerful thing that we were gifted with the opportunity of is to have eclipse season still alive and well for Halloween, for All Saints Day, to really, really, really have that mystical, supernatural ability to connect with the higher realms of intelligence, to source, to our ancestors. So in my mind, we are still very, very much in this eclipse energy. We will not be out of it until the new moon in Scorpio. So I do encourage you to, again, be building up that energy, that passion, that inspiration, that determination, that motivation. Build it up. Don't take action upon it. Don't act without a plan, without a path, without a strategy, without that green light go ahead. Sit back, observe, and be building up that energy, that spirit within you so that you know exactly what you want to take action on, what you need to do, what you need to change, what you need to transform when we are gifted with that green light go ahead to actually do so. Okay, so before I jump into the Ascension symptoms for this week, I just want to take a little bit of a moment to thank you. I want to thank you so much for being here, for liking, for sharing, for subscribing, for commenting, for dropping those beautiful little emojis in the comment section, as all of that really helps the algorithm. I want to also thank you for those of you who have jumped over to Patreon, testing out those new free memberships, being able to kind of get a preview of all of the private content in which I put out on that particular platform. I want to thank you for doing that as well. And of course, thank you to my paying Patreons for the love, for the support. I do want to take this opportunity to remind you that the November zodiac forecasts are out there. They're available for download either individually from my website, or again, if you subscribe to the silver tier over on Patreon, you get access to all 12. Those particular forecasts are kind of giving a huge heads up on what this, again, November being a pivotal point of change in the whole freaking calendar, let alone this particular timeline, what that is going to mean for you and where certain areas of your life are going to be kind of magnified once these energies start popping off and absolutely settle in. We're still very much in Scorpio season. So again, if you want to download the Scorpio season e-guide to kind of assist you with navigating these energies as they kind of pop off and shift, that is a great resource out there for you as well. I can create the content. I just can't make you do it. I can't make you do the work. That's something that you're going to have to really kind of build up within yourself. And now that Saturn is going direct, we should all be able to access a little bit more discipline, willpower within ourselves to do the things that we know that we should be doing. Now, one thing I want to mention, I've already given my Patreon subscribers a little bit of a first dibs, if you will, but I have released very limited spots for my 2024 year ahead reading. So if you want an individual reading, like a one-on-one to set you up for 2024, please reach out to me. I'll give you the private link. There's only a couple of spots left, and I am not getting into adding too many more moving into the new year because, well, heads up, I lose my voice every year because I take on too much work and I spend too many hours talking and I try to create too much content, and I have a miserable time around this particular, bridge from jumping from one year into the other. So I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to do different because that's what we all need to be doing. And so I've limited how many spots are actually available for this particular service. And so I would definitely recommend, if you have gotten them in the past and it's something that you want to continue doing this year, that you reach out as soon as possible. Let me know. I'll send you the link. You're going to want to book that spot immediately in order to actually reserve that spot moving forward. Now, let me also just say that if you're not able to get yourself a personal year ahead reading for whatever reason, of course, I always put out a collective year ahead reading at the beginning of every year that should give you enough information in order to navigate your particular year ahead with as much grace and as much ease as you could possibly do. I, again, will be doing that for 2024. And you may be saying, well, geez, we just moved into November. Why are you talking about this now? Well, because November is the last time that I open up appointments for normal services. This is my birthday month. I packed in more appointments than I would care to do in my birthday month. But because I don't offer any services, any booking requests in December, because I'm busy doing everything for the beginning of the year, I figured it would be appropriate to kind of drop this information on you now. So if you are looking for a energy reading session or a one-on-one, just like one of my normal services, this is your last month to book in, and there's only a couple of spots left. So head over to my website, book yourself in if that's what you want to do. And that is as much time as I'm going to take really promoting myself and my services. So thank you so much for sitting through that and listening. Okay, let's jump into the Ascension symptoms for this week. So last week, I talked about how we kind of failed as a collective to jump into the highest timeline that was available to us. And as I mentioned last week, I wasn't trying to be a Debbie Downer. I wasn't trying to be a negative Nancy. And as clear as I feel like I speak sometimes, it just doesn't cease to amaze me the amount of confusion that some people are in. And so I had a lot of people reach out and say, what, we failed, or what, we lost the war, or what, like the new world order, that's going to come, or what, new earth is over. No, I didn't say any of that. Did not say any of that. We all have multiple timelines available to us, specifically at particular timeline jump points, which happen every so often. We have the highest timeline, we have the lowest timeline, we have a middle timeline, and then we have timelines in between those particular points as well. All I was trying to get at is that we were projected prior to the quote unquote push narrative of the Middle East. Prior to that, we were on course for aligning with the highest timeline available. What does that mean? It means that we could have compacted technically like 3 Earth years of experience into that one timeline jump, which would have totally put us on a different trajectory altogether on what we're going to experience for the next 3 to 7 years. Because we did not, and reason being, the narrative coming out of the Middle East took a lot of the light workers off the playing field. Why is that? Well, I don't know, but somehow we all fell for the narrative. I'm not going to say we all, because there's a huge chunk of us that didn't. But you can't pick a side when you're trying to create New Earth 5D, okay? Sides only exist. Division only exists in 3D. I don't care what side you picked. I don't care what your reasoning for it. If you found yourself caught up in the division of this particular narrative, then you failed horribly to align with the 5D energies in which you were aligned with. Now, because of that, so many light workers that knew better fell off the wagon, so to speak. And that means that we didn't have the potency, the energy, the collective frequency where it needed to be in order to align with the highest timeline. Now, we did, compared to the old timeline that we were at, we did jump timelines, but it was just like a baby step. It was not incremental of any kind of nature. And the fact that we could have just fast forwarded through the next, 3 years-ish is very disappointing for those of us that are in touch with the energies, knew the potential, and seen the disappointment due to the quote unquote failure of that particular narrative, that particular timeline jump, that particular opportunity. So to clarify, we're still on course, but now we have to go back to regular gaming. What does that mean? Well, we're given so many, very few, but so many timeline jumps that collectively speaking, we can change the collective consciousness with in the matter of one particular timeline jump. We had the opportunity as a collective to make up for some serious lost time. We did not take it. Therefore, we did not win the championship game. Therefore, we have to return home to our regular, let's call it, game field. I don't know what game we're playing here, but you go to your home place, and we have to start practicing. We have to start practicing. We have to start, new level of intensity in our gaming, because this particular chapter requires us to stand in our creator energy. Too many of us out there are still consuming the energy, the narratives, the content of the external realm. We have another huge opportunity in about 7 years. And I know people are like, oh, geez, I'm just trying to get through today. Let's not talk about the depression over the next 7 years. It's not depression. It's that these particular, let's call it Olympic championship games, they don't come up every year. And yes, we will have new opportunities to timeline jump, but they will not be in the huge jump that we just failed to take. We will have, again, 3 years of practice, 3 years of very low, very slow change and transformation, very, very minimal timeline jumping, timeline shifting, because, again, we did not align with the highest timeline available to us. New Earth, it's still a thing. We're still building towards it. We didn't fail. There's still a war to be won. Yes, the light has already won in other realms, but again, it takes eons in order for that to manifest here in this physical realm. And this is a very revolutionary time for the collective. And so, when I say things like, I'm disappointed, yeah, I am. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's an overall feeling of disappointment over in the collective that you may not even know why you feel disappointed, but you do. You feel let down. You feel like there was this big buildup and it didn't happen. That particular energy is stirring in the collective right now because of our inability to align with the highest timeline possible. Does that mean that we're failures? Absolutely not. It just means that we're going to have to put forth a little bit more work, a lot more time until we get this next opportunity to hit the fast forward button on the evolution and the ascension process of the collective's energy, frequency, and vibration. So I was not trying to be a negative Nancy. I was not trying to stir people up and to make you feel like you messed up and that we're all failures and blah, 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 blah. Again, I want to use this opportunity to say, this is where the collective's energy is at. We got turned down so many frequency levels by this particular scripted narrative coming out of the Middle East. We got so many people on lower vibrations than we were prior to October. And so when you see the shadow coming out, because we're in Scorpio season, so this is why, you see the anger, you see the fear, you see the disappointment, you see the, oh, woe is me, you see the victimhood mentality. That is the shadow that exists not only within us, but in the collective as well. And so when you have, and especially I've noticed this, like the response that I get when I say certain things is a true indicator to me on where the mass collective is at. And I had nothing but confusion and negative narratives and negative perceptions and negative understandings come at me all week due to that one statement that I made last week, which was not even intended to create that kind of energy. It was just matter of fact, like, hey guys, we didn't win the Olympics this year. We got to go back to the drawing board. We have to continue to practice. We have to build ourselves up in order for us to have a chance of winning at the next Olympic championship, right? That's all it was meant to be. So for those of you that knew what I was trying to say, that understood it, that are vibing still on the higher timelines and the higher frequencies available, thank you for holding down the grid. Thank you for doing that. Y'all probably took a little bit of the role in which I normally play this week, because I am just absolutely exhausted and exasperated with this whole particular journey, these whole concepts, this particular whole path. Now, granted, I'm speaking out of the darkest days of my solar cycle here, okay? My birthday is this year, which means that the closer I get, or I shouldn't say this year, this month, this year, the closer I get to that solar return, the lower I am, because I'm in my dark season. I have no solar codes left. I have no inspiration left. I have no motivation left. I'm literally exhausted. This is, the winter season, the dark season that we all go through prior to our birthday, that we all go through as a collective as we approach the rebirth, the resurrection of the new astrological calendar. There are points every season, every cycle that we all experience the dark night of the soul in, and it particularly starts popping off 3 months prior to your birthday. So after last week and how misunderstood I felt and how disappointed that I was, not only with what I was already disappointed with, but then the backlash, the feedback that I got that kind of showed me where it is that the collective was at, I just checked out. And so for those of you that were holding down the higher vibrations in the grid, thank you for kind of pulling my weight as well, because I checked out all this past week. I'm hoping to get my energy up and going here, but until birthday comes, I don't know that I'm going to have it in me. So I thank those of you that are holding down the grid, that are keeping the grid anchored in, and especially seeing as last week I talked about how we're kind of in this retraction period, how us light workers, we need to step back, we need to rejuvenate and refresh ourselves. We have to realign and recalibrate ourselves because, that intensity is no longer needed. We missed the timeline jump. So, we don't have to kind of go as hard trying to be the truthers and hold down the grid and raise the vibration of consciousness and la, 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 la. This is a time where I am definitely stepping back a little bit. And, I think that we all need to listen to our inner realm and kind of understand where it is that we're running on empty. And, the number one rule of being a light worker is don't operate from an empty cup. And I'm about dried up. I'm about done. So I apologize, but I also thank you at the same time for kind of picking up the weight in which I have not been carrying over this past week. So with that being said, I want to talk about the fact that, again, we missed the highest timeline jump. Doesn't mean that we're not on a new timeline, but we won't actually know what timeline we're on and what soul contracts we're kind of moving into until the new moon in Scorpio. But with that being said, we're in a recalibration where the matrix is kind of glitching out right now because there is a reset. There's a recalibration. New codes are coming in to kind of fill the gap of the codes that we didn't successfully align with. And so because of that, we have to pay attention to the world around us to see what kind of timeline shift we're actually making, what kind of soul contracts we're actually moving into. We're only getting hints and clues at this time. But what I would say to you is that when you pay attention to the colors that stand out most to you, that is a good indication on where the shift is taking place. When you are picking up on patterns, that is a good indication of the recoding going on. When you are observing that maybe numbers are becoming a little bit more in your face, that is another indication that we are recoding. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Color-wise, let's start with the colors. If you're out driving around and you notice, let's say, predominantly red cars, red vehicles, or the color red is just everywhere. So first of all, you have to ask yourself, do I like the color red? Me, personally, my preference, I hate the color red. So whether you like a color or you don't like a color speaks a lot on what it is that you need to be working on or what it is that you're hesitant to work on within yourself. The color red is the root chakra. It's the egoic programming. It's the survival programming that operates within us. And so let's say, for instance, I'm out and I see dominant red. Okay, well, first of all, that's telling me, I guess I have to do some root chakra work because I don't like the color red being all up in my face. I don't like it. So this tells me that I'm avoiding doing something in my chakra work, in my energy work that has a lot to do with my survival, has a lot to do with my particular programming. Let's say, for instance, that you love the color red. Well, there's a new passion, there's a new desire that is percolating because I love the color red. Red is fresh. It's bold, it's brave, it's initiating, it is in your face, it is all kinds of love, of passion, of desire. If you like it. If you don't like it, it's a lot of anger, frustration. It's a lot of hatred. And a lot of that is the collective's energy right now. And of course, if you are a light worker, your chakra system is highly influenced by the collective's energy. So that's just one example about colors. I want to talk about patterns for a second. Okay, so patterns can happen in many different ways, but I'm going to give you an example on, a pattern that most people wouldn't bring into their awareness, and then unless they were actually looking for it, which I'm hoping that this will do for you. So let's say, for instance, that you had a dream about somebody that you haven't thought of in like 20 years, and it took you back to, let's say, middle school or high school, whatever the case may be. You haven't heard that particular person's name, and it's a unique name, and you haven't heard it for a very long time. And then all of a sudden you're standing in the grocery store and you're standing in line waiting for your turn, and you're overhearing people talk, and all of a sudden this random name gets spoken, and you're like, that's weird. That name doesn't pop up too often. And then all of a sudden you're talking to one of your friends, or you're talking to your family members, and they bring up this person. Okay, so now there's a pattern forming. What does this person have to do with you? May not be a physical connection that you have to explore. This isn't an indication like, oh, I got to look this person up and bust down the door and infiltrate their lives again. But what it is doing is it's illuminating a part of you that you haven't explored from that particular time frame. Maybe even a part of you that you haven't explored that this particular individual had something to do with. It could be many things. I'll give you another example. When you turn on the radio in your vehicle and a song is playing, and it takes you back to a different time of your life that either invokes good or bad feelings. And then all of a sudden you are reading something, or you're scrolling through your phone, and it may not be that song, but it has the same, vibe. It has the same timeline reference. So now you're being brought back to that particular timeline, that particular memory. It's all invoking a path, a direction for you to kind of look back, for you to be reflective, for you to move within yourself. So you have to pay attention to the patterns. Patterns are super important because this whole freaking simulation is built on zeros and ones. That's how coding goes on. And so patterns always are happening. And the minute that you can observe the pattern is the minute that the matrix is aware that you're aware of the matrix and the patterns in which they're showing you. And it's in that moment that the matrix will glitch in front of you to try and cover up and create a new pattern so that you're not continuing to piece things together. That's just the nature of the algorithm that creates this Earth simulation. So just pay attention to the patterns. Let's talk about numbers for a second. So, everybody has their thing. Maybe you look at the clock and it's 11:11. That's the most popular new age spiritual number that gets seen. Well, maybe your numbers are changing. Maybe you're moving from an 11:11 person to a 444 person. Maybe it doesn't even have to be the same number. Maybe you're looking at the clock and it's 12:34 all the time. Every single time that you look at the clock, it's 12:34, 12:34. Maybe you're flipping through a magazine, you see 12:34. Maybe you're listening to a podcast and it happens to be 12 minutes, 34 seconds, which, by the way, the message of 12:34 is baby steps. You're starting at the beginning. You need a structure, you need a path, you need a plan, you need a strategy to go baby steps, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. So it's starting over essentially with a solid plan, path, direction already ingrained in you. That's the message from the universe. Let's say, though, that you're used to the 11:11 and now you're seeing 444. Well, 11:11, yes, I know, you're divinely guided, you're divinely protected, the angels are with you, yada, yada, yada. But realistically, 411s are you need to get your shit together and start a brand new chapter of building new safety and security, a new foundation for you to operate with. Like, that is the message of 11:11. So let's say now that you go from 11:11 to 444. Well, 3 4s are 12. That's great. Let's take that away for a second. The fundamental life lesson of 4 is stability, is security, is the foundation that you have to build within yourself, in your inner realm and in your exterior realm, to feel supported. Okay, so if you're getting 444, well, that's 3 4s. Okay, so you're really needing to look at the mind, the body, the soul. Anytime you see 3 of anything, that's divinity, mind, body, and soul. So now you're needing to do a deep dive within your mental plane on where you do need to get a little bit more stability, a little bit more safety and security in your thoughts. Then you have to look in your emotional realm. Then you have to look in your physical realm. And you have to understand what those messages are telling you. But the point that I'm trying to prove right now is that we're in a recoding type of vibe. We're in a recalibration type of chapter. So to be aware of these particular, let's call them indicators on the coding that is taking place in the matrix right now, you're going to have a level up. You're going to have an awareness that other people aren't going to have. This is why many people have been talking about how technology has been glitching, just like it would in a Mercury retrograde. Well, we're going through a recalibration. This is a recoding process. And we are going to be seeing those particular glitches until we actually establish a new vibration, new timeline, new soul contracts. This particular energy that we're sitting in is very wackadoodle. Nobody's kind of denying that. But I want to kind of throw this at you. You know how it feels like when you are forgetting something, or you feel like you're forgetting something, or something's missing, or you're missing something or someone, but you just can't put your finger on it? That's what's happening right now. And even if you think, oh yeah, no, well, I miss my old best friend. Well, it's not really your old best friend that you're missing. You're missing the part of you that was alive and well when that connection was being cultivated. So maybe you feel like you're forgetting something and you haven't really forgotten anything. Well, that naturally happens when we're jumping out of one timeline and we're jumping into another, because everything is different. Even though everything physically looks the same, everything is being recoded. So the energetic attachment that we have had with certain people, places, elements, and things in our physical realm, even if they're still there, they have a different vibration and frequency. You have a different vibration and frequency. So the attachment, the energetic connection that you had with those particular aspects, that has changed. Therefore, you're missing that particular energy exchange. Something's different about it. You can't put your finger on it. And so it makes you feel like you're forgetting something or you're missing something, when realistically, it's just the recoding taking place. I want to ask you, how has silence been treating you? Because silence is a different kind of silent lately. It feels like even when we're in a state of quietness and calmness, which I know doesn't happen for too many people too often, but it sounds different. The vibration, the frequency of silence is much louder than it was before. It comes with a ringing, a decibel that it didn't have before. And so again, this is another indicator that our physical realms are being recoded in such a way that we are hearing, seeing, feeling the adjustments being made to our physical realm, even though nothing is changing. Vibrationally, everything is changing. So when it comes down to the current buildup of energy, what we're currently experiencing is a very live, very active, very intense inner realm and a very low and slow outer realm and physical body. Now, once Saturn actually goes direct, and again, he needs a little bit of time to actually start moving forward and experiencing, that forward movement into the new degrees. Again, he is going direct at 0 degrees, 31 minutes that we were essentially at back in March. There's a whole astro forecast on this particular event, so please go ahead and take a listen to that. But the pressure that we are feeling inside of us to boss up, to do better, to be better, to get our shit together, to step into our power, to gain control over the aspects that we haven't had control over. This is Saturn's energy. He forces us into having the willpower and the discipline that we've been lacking. And technically speaking, you should have been illuminated since June on where it is that you know better, but you've been failing to do better. And that's okay. It was an internalized reflection on where it is that we did have certain maturity, certain discipline, certain, I'm going to say, structures that we needed to be building within ourselves in order to have the accountability, the responsibility in our lives to do better because we know better. So we're definitely feeling this particular pressure kind of build up. We will continue to feel it build up. Again, likely till that new moon in Scorpio energy. So the funk that we're currently in will likely continue with this kind of, I'm going to say bad mood, bad attitude, disappointed type of feel. That is likely going to continue. I'm going to say until the new moon in Scorpio as well. However, we will get a little bit of glimmers, I would call it, shimmers, if you will, a little bit of bright points. Once Mercury enters into Sagittarius energy, that's really going to perk things up. That's going to kind of show us where it is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel now, where it is that there is a particular juncture point that we're trying to aim for. But the overall, I'm going to say heaviness, the weight, still going to be with us until we officially reset these scales, so to speak. And that is coming with the new moon in Scorpio. So, because Venus will be moving into her rulership, we can expect a major change, a major shift taking place in our heart space. So we're likely going to have some heart activations take place. Now, for me personally, this just feels like my heart is going at a much more rapid pace than it's used to. I'm much more aware of my heart beating in my chest than I was in previous months, let's say. We feel this anticipation coming because we've already kind of had epiphanies back in August on what it is that we needed to change as far as our physical realms go due to the change of heart in which we were having about certain people, places, and things in our lives. But we haven't been able to do anything about it. But we're building towards that point, and that anticipation, that build up, that intensity to actually do what we have to do to rearrange our lives and balance the scales out while Venus is in Libra energy, that is building. And so, the heart activations can kind of manifest in all kinds of different ways. It could be flutters of the heart or feel like an irregular heartbeat or, acid or pain, stomach acid coming up more, chest pain, hard time breathing. Breath work is definitely going to be a major thing throughout this particular Venus and Libra transit. We're going to feel those flutters. It feels like you're on an elevator and your stomach drops type of thing. Those are all heart activations in order for this recalibration, this recoding that we're going through to actually get in alignment between our heart and our head. And so especially once Mercury enters into Sag energy, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the headspace, but pressure, not like your head's going to explode like we had in previous energies. It's more like, I call it squirrel syndrome. Like, oh my goodness, I want to do this. Yeah, I have to do that. Yeah, I should be doing this right now. Oh my goodness, I should bring this to life. Yeah, I definitely want to try that. And you spend so much freaking time thinking about the things that you want to do that if you're not careful, you will accomplish nothing. And that is one downside of Sag energy, is that we're very unscattered. We are scattered. We're very unfocused. If you can focus that energy on something and actually take action and make moves according to the new thoughts, the new ideas, the good things that you want to try out, you will accomplish a lot, especially after the new moon in Scorpio energy, when we move into Sag season and we have Mars enter into Sag energy as well. He wants to take action. He wants to make moves on the big ideas, on all the thoughts that we're kind of tossing around like a pinball machine within our headspace. But that headspace, it's going to feel loud. It's going to feel a little bit chaotic. It's going to feel like we don't even have enough time to write down all of the thoughts and ideas coming into our head. It is definitely going to skew, good, bad, or otherwise, that remains to still be determined at this point, skew the vision and the dream that we now want for ourselves, that we now want to try and manifest. This is likely going to have a major impact on our dream state, like our sleeping dream state as well. And I would assume, and maybe that's wrong of me to assume, but I am really kind of hoping for and assuming that our dream state is going to reveal a lot more information in not such a cryptic way, a little bit more of a straightforward way. Like, you may actually wake up once Mercury actually moves into the Sag energy. You actually may wake up from a dream state, not remember anything or recollect anything from the dream, but know that you have an idea that you now have to research, that you now have to pursue. You just know it. There's just an infiltration of higher divine inspiration being downloaded to us in our dream state, that it's not going to be a cryptic thing like you wake up and you remember certain parts of your dream and now you're on the internet Googling what those particular symbolic messages actually mean. Like, this is just going to be like, you wake up, you know what it is that you got to look into, you know what it is that you got to tackle, you know what it is that you have to really explore. And I think that that's going to be a really good shift of energy for us. We are going to have muffled sounds come into our headspace, in our ears, especially once we have this pressure building. It's going to be very hard to kind of, I'm going to say, stay present with the auditory experience happening outside of ourselves, because the voices, the visions, the dreams, the ideas, the percolation of what should I be doing? Where do I need to focus my energy? What could I try out? What could I do differently? The noise from our inner realm is going to be louder than the noise in our exterior realm. And so it's almost like we are having a muffled sensation of the auditory experience coming at us from external situations. But the microphone is on and is very, very loud in our head. And that is kind of trumping the auditory information that we are able to bring in from the outside world. You're likely going to have some sore lips, some flaky skin, some itchy hot spot rash type of eruptions on your skin as well. I want to talk about the hot and sticky palms. You know, our palms are clammy and it feels gross. And that is our chakra points opening up for us, which puts us in creator energy, which we absolutely love at this particular point, seeing as this is the practice that we need to throw ourselves into. How can we manipulate energy? How can we have hands-on experiences? How can we step in our creator energy and create a realm and a reality that is in alignment with our true, authentic selves? I want you to also pay attention for any kind of skin eruptions, blemishes, discoloration, taking place on your actual face. Now, there are going to be some facial expressions changing as well. You may not recognize yourself in the mirror, and a lot of that is because our masks are changing. Now, of course, let's hope that we can all get to a point eventually where we're dropping the mask and we can just operate in this physical realm as our real, raw, true, authentic selves. But many of us still wearing that mask, that fake facade, that of course just puts us in a situation to flow through this external realm a lot easier, if you will, and really protect our true, authentic energy that many people are not ready to receive. But because of this recoding, because of the new identity coming forth, we may have some visible changes to our face, to our skin, to the oils on our faces as well, the dark circles under our eyes, the eye color of your actual eyeballs may be changing as well. But I want you to pay attention for flakiness, for drying out, especially around the eyelids. We don't like what we see right now. And because we're in this time of adjustment where the true nature of this new identity hasn't quite come out to play yet, we're still kind of questioning what's going to happen. What are we looking at? What are we being dealt here? And because of that, there's a dryness taking place in our eyes. Now, it may be itchy, watery eyes. You're always rubbing your eyes, but for some reason, I'm being shown the eyelids. And of course, our eyelids protect our eyeballs, our vision, if you will, protects our eyeballs while we sleep. It is a protector energy of kind of creating a little bit of a fake facade around what it is that we're actually seeing, whether that is a delusion, whether we're just trying to kind of paint our exterior realm in a better color than it's actually appearing at this time. However it actually is unfolding, there's going to be major changes noticed on our faces, on our skin. The last thing that I want to talk about is the lower back pain, the lower back discomfort. And this comes into play because, of course, the recoding means that the conditioning, the programming of our survival features, which is the root chakra, by the way, is also kind of going through this recalibration, this recoding process. So there's a lot of tension in our lower backs. You may be experiencing it in your hips, feeling like they're out of whack, in your legs, maybe having, sciatica or cramps or tremors. Whatever the case may be, it all actually stems at the very, very base of our spine, of our butts, in that hip area. That is the root chakra. So like I mentioned previously, about my own experiences with the color red, pay attention to where it is that that pain, that discomfort is taking place, especially when you have certain thoughts kind of, entering into your mind space, because that is a true indicator on what it is that you're kind of defragging as far as old programming goes, as far as the old identity goes, and where it is that the recoding, the recalibration is taking place in order to download you with a new identity, new egoic programming that is meant for your, again, earthly survival. So we got a lot of pressure going on in those lower extremities. And of course, we have to move our bodies. We have to do what we can to kind of break that energy blockage up and to have things going a little bit more, flowing a little bit more easily, let's say, in that particular part of our bodies. We are gaining momentum. We are gaining stability. It may not look like that or feel like that, but we are. And this is going to have a major influence on the sensations that we're having in our lower extremities. So guys, I think that is all. I'm just scanning through my list here. I think I covered everything that I wanted to talk about for this week. I want to thank you so much once again for joining me, for showing up for not only me, but for yourself. I really, really appreciate the continued love, the continued support, and the continued devotion in order for you to be on this healing journey. I thank you so much for being here. I'm sending you nothing but love, and we'll talk to you soon.